help others. You gotta love the mothers. And you gotta hug the ones who bring us joy and love. It's the middle with the moms and it's your day.
Hey everybody, I am finally back getting the podcast out. I'm so sorry I missed the past 2 Fridays. I've had some crazy busy weeks. The first week I missed because my amazing little brother Nikki and his beautiful wife Allie welcomed their sweet baby boy into the world. His name is Gabriel Massavelli, the most badass Italian name ever. But they welcomed him into the world, and he was born in Knoxville. So me and the kids left daddy to work. Sorry, daddy. But we picked up and got in the car and headed to Knoxville as soon as we knew it was happening. Can't wait to have her on to talk about her crazy birth story. Just so thankful that her and Gabriel are healthy and doing incredible. But we spent a week in Knoxville, and it's kind of awesome because we also got to move my little sister Francesca out of her dorm, so it was like perfect timing. And then of course we got to spend some time with Nikki, Allie, and Gabriel. And Chessa has never been so in love. I mean, she held him for like an hour. It was the sweetest thing in the world. And Raylan is just so ready to have his best buddy. So that was a week in Knoxville. So of course, missed that podcast on that Friday. And then unfortunately the week after, my amazing, incredible grandmother, Mama Sue, had passed away from dementia. And it was a hard week because, we got to see her in those last moments, and it, wasn't fun. But I'm just so thankful she's at peace now. And she is with her family in heaven. And that's just what I'm, hopeful and at peace with. But it was a week of, getting her stuff together, supporting my mom, my grandpa, and getting ready for the funeral. And the funeral was absolutely beautiful. It was everything that she wanted. And I'll probably share more about all that whenever my mom comes back on again. But anyway, so it's been a crazy past 2 weeks. So back home on my editing game. So excited that this podcast is out. I've been so pumped to get it out because Michelle is like one of the most amazing women on this planet. I can't wait for y'all to listen to everything. I learned a lot and was just like reassured on a lot of things. And, child discipline is so important. Raising our kids is so important. The things we say to them, how we discipline them is, just beyond important for their future and everything, as we all know. And so even if you do know all this stuff already, which, we learned a lot, but it's good to just hear it and have it embedded in your brain. I'm just so thankful that she came on. She's incredible. She'll definitely be back. I'll put in her information because she does offer co-parenting classes and self-defense classes, and she is a yoga instructor. She just does it all. She's amazing. So enjoy this episode. Thank you for your patience, and thank you for keeping up with this podcast and sharing it. I am so thankful for everything. I have over 600 downloads. I'm just mind blown and just so thankful. I know it's not like a celebrity where they probably have millions and thousands, but this is amazing, and I'm making a difference for a lot of people. And thank you for reaching out to me and telling me you're listening and you're thankful for it. Thank you for telling me you want to be on it. I have so many guests lined up. If you would also like to be on it, please message me. Every mom has a story. Every woman has a story. I'm just so excited to be able to share everyone's story so we can all not feel alone in this, be able to relate to each other, and be able to learn a lot of things. Enjoy this episode. Thanks for listening. All right.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you so much for doing this with me. I'm so excited that you're here. It's kind of funny because we met first at Kelsey's wedding, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you were I'm a wedding videographer, and you were one of my bride's moms, and you were the coolest mom and had the best dress ever.
Oh, thank you.
Oh my gosh, I still think about that dress. It's gorgeous. But also, you were a teacher at Sumit Yoga, where I did yoga.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if I met you there first or not, but I think it was the
that
wedding.
was second. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, and then I saw you at a wedding a couple weeks ago, and I'm so glad I did, because when I started doing this, we'll think about who would I want to be a guest. And I really wanted you to, because, you have a lot of inspiring posts and a great, story, and just a really good speaker, I feel like. And with your new adventures that you're doing, I was like, okay, she'd be a perfect person. And then seeing you, I was like, oh my gosh, now I can ask you. So this is so perfect. But yeah, so just introduce yourself a little bit, and you're a fellow mother, obviously. Yes. So talk about being a mom, and just tell me a little about yourself.
That's what this is all about, right?
Yes.
Being a mom.
Yes.
So yeah, thank you for asking me. What an honor. I mean, such an honor to be here with you and sharing this space with you. And so first and foremost, I love being a mom. Yes. I am a mom. I have 3 children. They are 33, 31, and 21. So
wow.
everyone's an adult now, but it was it's fun to still be their mom, because you never stop being a mom. But yeah, so my name is Michelle Johns, and I'm the owner of Transforming Wellness. Transforming Wellness is a mindfulness-based movement center. So I have now my own yoga studio.
Yes,
so we have yoga classes, strength and resistance training classes, and I'm really excited to now be offering self-defense training.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Starts next week. Self-defense training for women and for children and for adults. Okay. And when I say adults, that just means those classes combine men and women together. Okay. But yeah, I mean, it's 1 in 5 women are attacked in college. 1 in 5 high school girls report being attacked by, usually it's a sexual attack or someone trying to attack you in a way to corner you as a woman. Yeah. For the purposes of a sexual attack. And so it can feel super vulnerable to be a woman just to go for a walk out on the street by ourselves, And I think it's unfortunate. We shouldn't have to live in fear like that. And always be watching, we should always watch around our surroundings, but we shouldn't have to feel like I don't know what to do if someone approaches me, other than tell them to stop or make them try to go away. And so I'm really excited to
I've
been training in these techniques and be like, I feel good that if someone tries to grab me, I know how to get away and call for help. Yes. And so that's what we're training and what we're teaching.
That is awesome.
So yeah.
That's so awesome.
Yeah,
literally.
Come on.
I want to come. So you're going to have to give me the little schedule later. But growing up, my dad is very overprotective dad, and he has made me and my siblings grow up to always be aware of everything and always have some kind of thing, protection or a weapon or something. He's so funny. He comes over and just brings us little weapons. I have so many mace sprays and one that is shaped in a little gun, and you pull the little trigger and it's mace and bear mace. He's ridiculous. But literally since I could walk, we have a punching bag in our backyard, and he taught us how to properly punch, because when he was younger, he punched, I don't know what he punched, but it broke his knuckles. So his knuckles are still messed up. So he wanted us to know how to punch and protect ourselves. So my whole life, that's what he made us do. But I need to take your class, because I don't know how to do all the crazy other things to protect yourself.
Yeah. So really what we're teaching is how to get out of something. So if someone tries to grab you, how do you get out of that hold, right? And then at the same time, you're yelling for help, so the people around you know that you're being attacked, and so you're getting yourself away so that you can actually call them. Because in reality, especially for women, men are stronger.
Strong.
They are. And the likelihood of us being able to hit them in a way that really is going to impact them or gouge their eyes out, as so many of my friends like to say, I gouge their eyes out. I'm like, if you can get to their eyes, right? Someone can grab your hand while you're in the midst of trying to hit them. So you want to be able to get away is what you want to do. Get away and get safe. And that's what we're teaching. And these techniques are all based in the Gracie family Brazilian jiu-jitsu techniques. And so the Gracie family is world renowned. These self-defense training techniques are incredible. They are tried and tested over hundreds of years and in thousands of encounters. And so we know that they work. And so also, in addition to owning Transforming Wellness and Mindfulness-Based Movement Center, I am a clinical mental health counselor. I work a lot. My work is primarily with women that have been victims of intimate partner violence.
Yeah.
And, in Shelby County alone, where we live in Memphis, Tennessee. I know people from all over be listening to this podcast, but there are over 2,000 calls a year for intimate partner violence. And those are just the calls that are actually made.
Right.
It's very prevalent for people to have some form of abuse, sadly, in their intimate relationships. And I have to say that even in these self-defense techniques that I'm learning and teaching and offering to the public, most of the time as women, we would be attacked by someone we know. It won't be someone we don't know, generally. But then you also want to be prepared for those times when it's someone that you don't know. I know it's not what this podcast we were going to talk about today. We kind of got sidetracked talking about what I do and what I offer, but I am in that space. That's where I am, in the space of counseling and therapy and body techniques that help us move better, feel better, live better. And so when we can interact better with ourselves, then we can interact better with the world around us. But just even understanding things about ourselves and what we need for ourselves helps us understand better for others, and especially as a mom, our children. And so offering the children self-defense program, children get bullied at school.
I know.
It's a really, it happens a lot. And I kind of felt like, okay, children aren't getting necessarily attacked at school, but sometimes they do. You have somebody push you or shove you down on the ground. And it's not that we want to teach children to fight at all. We're not teaching them that. As a matter of fact, we don't. We just teach children, again, how to defend yourself against an attacker and how to get away. And then the other thing I think about is, like, if you're at a playground and you're always watching out for other people and someone grabbing your child, and them knowing how to get away from someone too. So if they, one time I had a child, I was picking up my son from school, and a little boy ran up to me and he grabbed me and gave me the biggest hug, and I looked similar to his mom. He thought I was his mom. And I looked down, I'm like, oh my goodness. And he looked up, he goes, oh my gosh.
He was scared.
And he was just so embarrassed too, and I was like, oh, it's fine, no worries, but I'm not your mom.
No.
So
that is so
I think
funny.
just having this sense of empowerment. Nothing is foolproof. You can't guarantee, you're going to be safer. Like, nothing's going to happen to you. But what you can say is, with a sense of certainty, that you should have some confidence about how you can protect yourself and take care of yourself in situations when you're attacked. So that's enough about our self-defense programs. You can always go, I'll just say this, to transforming-wellness.com, and you can get more information about those classes.
Yes. I'm definitely going to put that on the little caption so people can click it, because I know people are going to want to go take that. I definitely do. And just like a little side story, my neighbor, or my parents' neighbors, they're like really good friends of ours, and they have a son who's a couple years older than us. When he was little, his dad, my dad, and him went to Home Depot, and he was walking around, and he, I guess, lost his dad, and he thought this other man was his dad. And he went up to the man and just grabbed his hand and started walking with him. And the man just, I guess, assumed that he was lost, hopefully, and so was holding his hand and like walking with him. But my dad was watching the whole time. He just wanted to see, like, what's going on. And then all of a sudden he looked up and he noticed it wasn't his dad. And he was like, and started screaming, crying. And my dad went and got him. And the man was like, I was taking him to the front desk or whatever. But if that man was creepy and wanted to take him, he could have. So the thought, or the fact that you can teach them to get out of that hold, or to protect themselves, or scream, or tell them what to do in that situation as a child, that's huge. So
it is, right? And then and the reason you keep coming to classes, like, there are the same techniques over and over again. Like, there are 23 of them for women. There are over 30 something of them for the adult combative program, and there are 20 of them for children. But you keep coming to develop the reflexes, right? So that when something happens, it's like, this has been ingrained in me, and I know exactly what I need to do. And so the classes aren't in a series necessarily. So if you missed a class and you were like, oh, I didn't get last week's class, it's okay. You can just catch back up when you come in. And so that's the way these classes are taught.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's the good part about it also, because
and you want to be able to think fast too. You don't want to have time. Like, the world is having a lot of scary stuff going on. I mean, the Ukraine stuff and all this stuff. So you want to be able to react really quick. You don't want to live in fear, like you said. You don't want to have severe anxiety all the time, like I do sometimes. But you want to be able to act fast, and your muscle has memory. So if you like are ingraining that inside, like, in how to get out or whatever, then you will just automatically do it.
That's right.
Instead of just thinking about it and then it's too late or something, So that's awesome. But anyway.
No, I love it. Thank you. I'm glad we're able to talk about this.
So I'm so excited about the fact that you told me that you are teaching child discipline stuff, right? And then co-parenting.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. So when you work with people that you work with families, right? I work with families. And so when you work with families, it encompasses a lot of different aspects of what it means to be a family. Right. And sometimes families are, intact with the family of origin, and sometimes people end up getting separated or divorced. And so there's a co-parenting situation when people get remarried, or even if you don't get remarried, right? You're now moving from being an intimate partner in a relationship together, living in the same home, to co-parenting relationship, parenting your children together, but no longer in an intimate relationship with one another. And so there's a transition period in that. And there are so many things that parents don't consider because we're so caught up in our own feelings and our own emotions and what's happening to us. Yeah. We make assumptions about our children that they're going to be fine, right? Or that they're so young, they don't really understand or know what's happening. Yeah. So I do a lot of teaching parents about here is how divorce impacts children and how you can have a healthy co-parenting relationship, because divorce in and of itself is not bad for children. Okay. It's how the parents handle the divorce that impacts children. Right. And so we call that divorce abuse if it's not handled correctly. Yeah. But if both parents are if their love for their children is greater than their, I hate to use the word hate, but that's kind of the word that we use, of course, their hate for each other or their dislike for each other, then being co-parents together can be a lot easier. And a lot of times parents just need that framed for them. Somebody 100%. To say, hey, is your dislike, your hurt and your pain from your now co-parent, your former intimate partner, greater than your love for your children? Right. Because if your love for your children is greater, then you'll look for ways to be co-parents in a way that benefits your children. Exactly. That is children so important. Can be fine, from divorce, as long as their parents are handling things well.
And I know way too many stories of it not being well, and the parents, talking bad about the parent or one parent, to the kids and stuff, and that's just not the right thing to do. And I have friends who've suffered from that, and because their dad talked bad about their mom. They hated their mom growing up, but now that they're older, they can see. But that's just so sad. It should not have to be like that. Their love for their kids has to be way greater than that. So, and I think you being kind of that mediator, saying those words, helps so much instead of, one parent saying that to the other parent, because they don't want to hear what they have to say sometimes. So you being that mediator, that's huge. So I had no idea that there were classes like this out there. So that's amazing. I do know people though who have been divorced and co-parent so great together, and it has made the kids' life so much easier. And then they both remarried and they have second mom, second dad, and they get along so well. That just makes all the difference in the world. I know it sounds impossible. Me thinking about if I was in that situation, that's so hard. But being able to co-parent together, that is everything. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it is. And it really sets, it takes setting some boundaries. What are the lines that we know we're not going to cross, right? And why aren't we going to cross them because of our children? My parents were divorced and that was back in the 70s, and people didn't talk about co-parenting. I don't even know that I never heard the word until I was an adult myself. And so, in fact, I am a divorced parent. I have 3 children, and 2 of them are from a first marriage. And in that marriage, there were a lot of struggles and challenges, and I have my own story of intimate partner violence and know what that is like, and to recover and heal from that. It's been 30 years for me, but that's why I love the work I get to do and the things that I share with other people. Some of it is because I know it's true from personal experience, but I also know it's true because I read the research on it and I read other people's stories, and there's some similarities in the things that we do or don't do for our children. So love teaching co-parenting, and I also teach parenting classes. So that's also a lot of fun because it's hard being a parent is so rewarding, but it's so hard.
It's so hard. I don't know. I literally say that all the time, and some people seem so embarrassed to say that or admit that, I feel like a bad parent for saying that. That doesn't make you a bad parent. It is hard. You literally go from focusing on yourself all the time, right? And, your job or whatever, but now you have other lives to take care of. So you got to balance it all. And it's constantly changing because they're growing up, getting in different stages. So I'm not embarrassed to say it is hard. And being in the toddler stage, because, I hear. I
hear one right now. That's right.
That little girl, she, is such so sweet. You're such a good big sister. Uh-oh.
But your little ones are calling you right now.
They're calling me now. But she has her moments of the terrible twos, and wow, there's so many different ways you can approach it. And we don't know what we're doing as parents. Like, we just don't know what we're doing. So I feel like if there was a book on being the perfect parent, that would be great. But there isn't. So going to these courses and listening to people like you help guide us is so important. So help me. What do I do?
No, I love it. So what's so funny is when I start these classes, and even with like co-parenting, it's the first thing we all have to do is understand our own story, where we came from, and what impacted us as we were growing up. Like, what are the standout experiences you had as a child? Yeah. What makes that experience a standout experience for you? What would you have liked to have either been different about that experience, or what was wonderful about that experience that you took with you to build upon? And then when you look at your children, to know that each child is different and they have their own set of needs. I mean, even if you have siblings, you notice how different you are from your siblings. Yeah. And how each of you have your own gifts, and you have your own ways of being in the world. Yeah. And so everybody has a different need. And that's why there can't be a guide on what it's like to be the perfect parent, because your children are so unique and different. But there is a guide, right? There's a method of trying to understand our children. Yes. And being able to meet their needs in a healthy, nurturing way. And it starts with nurturing ourselves. Okay. So when I start parenting classes, I'm like, you have to take a hard look at your own story. Yeah. Where did you come from? What were the things that you learned? What are the legacy burdens, I like to say, and legacy gifts that you have from your own family of origin? That's really important. Yeah. What do you want to pass down, and what do you want to change? Yeah. And why do you want to change it? Yeah. But and so then we have children, we look at them, and what I love is you're saying the terrible twos, and I have 3 grandchildren. Yes. And so watching my daughter with her children is so funny, because I'm like, I remember feeling a lot of the things that she feels right now. He knows better. He knows exactly what he's doing. I'm like, he's 4. I say the same. And yes, he's really smart. Yeah. And he definitely knows a lot of things about the world, but his ability to rationalize anything in life is not there at all. And so so I'm going to backtrack a little bit then and talk to us a little, because the foundation of everything is development. Right. And it was true for you, it's true for me, and it's true for our children. Right. And our children's children. Right. And so, talking about these little bitty people that we get to spend life with that are so amazing, right? Yes. I mean, just amazing. Yeah. I know. I want like 50 more, but it's exhausting. Plus, there's only a little bit of you, and then you start to get ganged up on. There are more of them than there are you. I know. Yeah. We got 2 now, and my husband's like, we're done. This is good. We have a boy and a girl, but I'm like, I'm not done. So get ready in a couple years. We'll see. I was always tell parents, it's also good to have a plan, whether you're co-parenting or you're together. You're always co-parenting, whether you're in the same house or not, right? But either way, they have to see like this team from you. Exactly. Right? So there have to be some things that you're agreeing on that you're instilling in them and sharing with them. So when we're born, what's so interesting about us is that we're born with more neurons and cells in our brain than there are stars in the sky. Wow. More neural connectors in our brain than there are stars in the sky. I mean, it's really amazing. Brain research over the last 30 years, you can fact check me with Dr. Daniel Amen or Dr. Daniel Siegel, or Dan Siegel. They both have done some amazing research on brain development and stages of development for children. Okay. So everything I'm saying to you, I've learned from them. Right. But so when you think about that, that means the capacity for us to learn things as children, we're sponges, is just immense. Mm-hmm. But the really interesting thing about our brains is when we're born, our brains are fully formed, but they're not fully developed. Right. The only part of our brain that's fully developed is our brain stem. Okay. And that's at the base of our brain. Right. It's connected right at the top of our spine, right. And the bottom of our brain. And so that is the part of our brain that sends signals to our body that says, hey, I'm hungry, or I don't feel comfortable. Right. we communicate when we're born because we don't have verbal language skills yet. We have verbal noises. Yeah, we mean noises.
Yeah.
But we do this communication with our caregivers based on what we're feeling in our body. And so I feel tired, I have a cry. I feel hungry, I have a cry.
Yes.
I just want to be held.
Yeah.
I have a cry.
Yeah.
And then the way that we develop attachment as children is based on how our caregiver nurtures our needs.
Yes. And I got to say, a baby is never crying for no reason.
Right.
And I think some people, lose some patience. And so they're like, they're crying for no reason. No, there's a reason. Yeah. They're hungry. They're tired. They have a dirty diaper. Maybe their tummy hurts. Like there's something.
Yeah.
And so, Chessa was such an easy baby, and Raylan had colic, so I'm sure you can imagine. Yeah. So it was rough, but I gave myself to nurturing him and did everything I could. And so I some people would be like, oh, just let him cry. Let him lay there. It's fine. I'm like, no, I'm not letting my baby do that. So how do you know the difference between that? Or is there not how they say, if they're not sleeping through the night, just let them cry in their crib. Is that the right thing to do? I don't know.
Oh, gosh, that's a tough one to answer. So
record on this.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting because, like you said, every cry is for a reason, right? And sometimes it is, I just want to be held and I just want someone to be near me. And so the really cool thing about what you just asked is children don't cry in their beds every night for the rest of their lives. It's more of less a season in life. And so I think that they're definitely an advocate of saying, help train your child to stay in their own bed, to sleep, help them develop some self-soothing techniques. Yeah. But I think if you hear in their cries, and when their cry is frantic and they need to know that you're there and nearby. So definitely go in their room, give them a little belly rub or back rub, and soothe them without maybe even picking them up. Right. But if you want to pick them up and soothe them for a moment, and then lay them back down in their own bed. Really hard work, right? Because really the easy thing is to say, oh, I'm just going to take you back to my bed. Sleep with me.
Yeah. That's what I did with Chessa, and she just now got out of our bed and sleeps in her own bed, and she's almost 3. So you can imagine that one. Yeah. But with Raylan, he had colic, and it was just a lot of crying, and I was breastfeeding him, and he wanted to be on my boob literally 24/7. It was insane. I had so much milk. My boobs were huge. But when it got to a point where when he was 6 months old, he still wasn't sleeping longer than 2 hours in a row. So you know what that means for me. I'm not. Yeah. And I was going crazy. And so I called the pediatrician. I was like, something's wrong with him. Do we need an MRI? What's going on? And she's like, have you put him in his bed and let him cry? I was like, no. I'm so against that. And she was like, Camilla, just do it. Let him cry for 45 minutes. And if it's longer than that, then you can go get him. But she was like, I promise you he'll cry one night and then he'll never cry again. And I was like, oh, it took me 2 weeks to finally accept it. And my husband looking at me like, please, we need to sleep. So we did it, and he cried on and off for 45 minutes, but passed out. And every single night since then, he sleeps 12 hours in a row at night. And he wants his bed. He wants to be in his bed. Yeah. He would never be able to sleep with us. He just doesn't like that. He likes to be alone in his bed. It's amazing. I'm like, wow, it worked, Yeah. So I would recommend to people doing that before 6 months, but still. But anyway, so I don't know. I just think what you said with, them crying, there's always a reason, that they're crying. They're not maliciously doing that. They don't have the capacity to think about that, So anyway.
No, it's so, and so they can't think yet because their brains aren't fully developed. Our brains are not fully developed until we're 25 to 28 years of age. And so when we're babies, the only part of our brain fully developed is the brainstem, and everything. And this is really what's interesting about that is that everything we experience in life, and this is always true for all of us forever. We experience in our bodies first. Yes. And that's where it comes from. Babies communicate based on what they feel in their body and what they feel in the surroundings around them, right? So if something feels uncomfortable, doesn't feel safe, they're going to cry to be held by their caregiver. Right. And so that's an important thing for me to share with parents that have high conflict. When I have co-parents that, are transitioning into being co-parents strictly and not in an intimate partner relationship anymore, or parents that have high conflict in their home. They'll say, well, they're just so young, they don't even know what we're fighting. And
not true.
Actually, the research shows that children that have nonverbal skills and are around a lot of conflict end up being the most stressed and have the most anxiety later in life, and actually end up being the most volatile later in life, because they experienced all these this high conflict around them they didn't understand, and it made them really tense and anxious, and it just carried on. It developed them. It shaped the way they developed and they interacted with the world around them.
Right.
So it's important for us to know that what happens with our infants is really important, right? And the way that we nurture, and without, you can't spoil a baby either, by the way. People are like, oh, don't pick them up, that you're just spoiling them. It's like, I promise you that by the time my children were able to walk, they wanted to walk. They wanted free. People want to be free. We want to be autonomous. And so,
I agree with that.
18-year-old is walking around being held. You can't do it.
No. I hate it when people say that.
You can't do it.
So frustrating. Yeah. But is it true that the first 2 years of life is the most important years of life for brain development?
No. Oh, so the great question, because that leads right into the next thing. Good. So between the ages of 0 and 8, the middle part of our brain is developing.
Okay.
And that's where we get our emotions come from.
Right.
Right. And so now we feel something in our body, and there's an emotion that comes with that feeling.
Right. Okay.
It could be happy, sad, mad, angry. We're starting to develop a lot of verbal skills, right? Our verbal skills are through the roof especially between 2 and 4. You just see this huge expanse of the way your children are communicating with you. And so every stage is important, was really what I'm about to say.
Yeah.
But ages 0 and 8, we have this emotion center that's really taking shape and developing. And so the terrible twos, right? That's what's going on there, right? Our children now have these emotions tied to this feeling in their body, and they don't quite know what to do with it.
Right. No.
Because they're just still being developed and shaped and formed. And so they respond to the way that you respond to them. And sometimes you're like, well, I'm being really calm, and they keep going. And it's like, okay, but that's when maybe you do walk away, make sure they're safe, and you let them cry it out. And then you come back to them when they've settled down a little bit. But they don't know what they're doing. When people go, they looked at me and they touched it anyway when I told them not to. It's like, I know, because they're just testing the waters.
I
They
literally, I say that a lot. So I'm glad you're saying that, because Chessa really likes to act up when other people, or if I'm with her with other people. If she's just with my parents or just with my sister or whoever, she doesn't, well, so they say, but she doesn't act up or act sassy or anything. But when I'm here, for some reason, she likes to do that. She obviously is taking, she's a sponge. She's taking in everything that we do, and I see it so much. So, if she does something wrong, I would go, no, ma'am, don't do that. She literally now goes, Mommy, I said no, ma'am. Or she'll go, Daddy, I said no, ma'am. And I'm like, it's no, sir. But I'm like, at least she's being respectful. But no, you don't talk to me like that. So now at first I would be like, do not say that to me. And that obviously didn't work. And so now if she says it, I'm just like, kind of ignore it, because I don't know what else to do. She still says it though. It's a little less, but I guess it's just so, another question I really wanted to ask you. So I follow this Instagram called, I think it's called Big Little Feelings. You should follow them. They say exactly what you say. But they have parenting courses and stuff like that. But they say they're put yourself in your toddler's shoes. If you are having a horrible day and someone is telling you, go sit in timeout, or, get yelling at you, getting mad. You don't want that to happen. So they don't want that to happen either. So let them feel their feelings. So if Chessa is having a huge tantrum and screaming and fighting, even, this might be a different subject, but even maybe hitting or something, how do I approach that? Do I let her have her moment and leave her, or what do I do?
Wow. Okay. So great questions. First, I want to say this, backing up a little bit to what you were saying a moment ago. Children learn by modeling.
Yep.
So that is the number one way they learn. And so little children will pretend to be us, right? And they mimic what they see us say and do. And so if we want them to do things differently, it helps when we do it differently.
Okay.
So one of the things that and by the way, I made tons of mistakes as a mom. So it's great being a grandmother because I can be like, oh, let me tell you how this
right.
is so much better. I have a pretty easygoing daughter, so I'm pretty fortunate in that way. So she's funny. Always like, yeah, tell me. And then if she doesn't agree with something, she's like, Mom, I'm not doing that. Like,
that's so
this
funny.
is my way. I'm doing it this way. I'm like, gotcha.
Yeah.
And I'm really good at being supportive.
Good.
Like, because I just know how important that is. Like,
yes.
letting her do her thing and just being the support she needs.
Yes.
But, so one of the things that I've learned to do is with the boys, and then my daughter's having a baby. The third one is coming in October. So mainly right now, I'll just say the boys, is when they start to touch something, they shouldn't touch it. It's like, no, please.
Okay.
No, please. And I have just a sterner voice, but there's always this please, with it.
Okay.
Or yes, thank you. And so teaching them to say things that you want them to say, right? And modeling for them. With the temper tantrums, I think that if they're safe, and you can't, there's no way of really getting them to reason because they don't have skills to reason or rationalize things. You definitely let them cry that out.
Okay.
Hitting, I draw a line with.
Okay.
So yes, I definitely think children need boundaries. Absolutely need boundaries their whole life, and boundaries need to match their stage of development.
Right.
And so timeout is completely appropriate.
Okay.
But for little bitties, their attention span is like a minute for almost every year of their life or something like that. So you can't put them in timeout for more than 2 or 3 minutes, right? When they're 2 years old.
Yeah.
But there are these wonderful books I love to recommend.
Okay.
One, it's called Hands Are Not for Hitting.
Okay.
Feet Are Not for Kicking.
Right.
Great books. And they talk about what we can do with our hands. And so if you have your child that's hitting a lot and you're like, no, hitting is not allowed. It violates our family values, our family beliefs, our morals in life. We don't hit.
Yeah.
So one thing you want to do too is look for ways to discipline your children that don't involve hitting, right? If you don't want them to be hitters, you don't hit them because they learn from modeling.
Exactly.
And so, and then I recommend those books a lot so that children learn, hands are for shaking and hands are for playing and hands are for, hugging.
Right.
And so all these things that we do with our hands, and then feet are not for kicking, but feet are for dancing, or feet could be for kicking a ball, but like learning to set boundaries around things. But definitely children need a timeout, right? That's important. Children need discipline.
Yeah.
What I say to parents all the time is there's a difference in discipline and punishment.
Okay.
So when we're hitting our children or yelling at our children, we're trying to probably instill some sort of punishment in them because we want them to feel our wrath.
Right.
And it's meant for, and that would be meant more for harm.
Right.
Whereas discipline is meant for teaching. And I always use this example, like when we read our Bibles, he taught the disciples, modeled for the disciples, and that's how they learned. And so the root word of discipline is disciple, and it means to teach.
Okay.
So why are you trying to get your child to stop? Why don't you want them to hit? What is the lesson in that? What are you trying to teach them?
Okay.
And again, their brains are sponges. And even though they can't rationalize and form logic so much at the age of 2 or 3, you're saying these things repetitively and you're staying the course and you're staying consistent. And that's how they learn.
Okay.
And so all along the way, our brains are developing and we're learning how to form logic and become rational people. But that doesn't fully happen until we're between the ages of 25 and 28.
Yeah. So fun. I think men are later than us, right?
Yeah, so interesting. Yes, women, it's around 25. For men, it's around 28. Yep. And it makes sense, right? Women and men are different. We have different hormone levels. We have different types of hormone levels. For like men typically have more testosterone. Women have more estrogen. And so that is a real thing. And that's something we have to understand. And that is taught in our in brain development, right? And so understanding that helps us understand our children. And their stages of development and how our children develop. So
I definitely have made a lot of mistakes. Because in that Instagram, I told you, they say sorry to them, so that they know. And so I do that. Or if I'm like having a day and having a lot of anxiety or just don't feel like I have really good patience and I, am like, ugh, or something, I'll be like, I'm sorry, like mommy is tired or something, because you want them to be able to see that it's okay to feel mad or like to have other feelings.
Those are real feelings.
Yeah, exactly.
Anger is real. I mean, and it's and that's what I agree. Like, let your children express their feelings.
Yeah.
Ask them what they're feeling.
Yeah.
Let them tell you. Be a safe place for them.
Right.
By the way, you should make yourself the safest place your children know, right? Because the world is often can feel unsafe, and it can feel unsafe because it is unsafe, like in really big ways. Yeah. And it can feel unsafe because we get our feelings hurt at school a lot by teachers and peers and all that. So you want to be the most trusted resource your children have. And so how do you make yourself be that place for them? And so one way to do that is to allow room for their feelings and help them. You know, here's the deal. You could say to your child, maybe they want the latest and greatest $200 pair of shoes, right? And you're like, that's not in the budget. We just bought, you know, back to school clothes, or it was just a holiday that we celebrated buying gifts, or it was just your birthday. And now, you know, I'm not spending $200 on shoes. And they're pitching a fit, right? 15-year-olds and 2-year-olds throw the best temper tantrums, right? And they want those shoes, and you know, they're mad at you and slamming doors maybe and stomping off and all this good stuff. When everybody calms down a little bit, it's okay to say, you know what, I understand why you want those shoes. Yeah. Those shoes are really cool. I think they're pretty too, but it's not in the budget right now.
Right.
And so we're not going to be buying those shoes, but I totally get why you're frustrated. I totally understand why you know, are upset that we're not buying them. Right. And so there's this empathy in that, but it still doesn't mean you give in. Empathy doesn't mean you give in. Right. Compassion doesn't mean we have to give in. It just means that there's a level of understanding. But there still have to be boundaries sometimes. Yeah. And that's an important balance for us to find, or harm. I like the word balance is become one of those things that I'm kind of reevaluating. Like, no one's ever really balanced. I'm never really balanced. I just want to find harmony there you go. In all the things that are happening in my life. Yeah. And so wherever I can create some harmony in those experiences in life, then everything's better. Same thing with our children. That's all we're trying to do.
I definitely struggle with giving in to stuff. Me and my husband both do. Like, if she's throwing a temper tantrum, I've noticed that we really do give in really easily just to please her, and that's not good. So we have to chill out on that. Like, if, you know, we're putting her to sleep, but she wants to, you know, watch a TV show, we're like, no, we're going to sleep. But if I'm like, well, I really need to edit, so okay, you can. I'm like, that's probably not good, right?
I don't know. I think so. I don't let, like, what do you want in your family? Like, what's going to be important to you? Yeah. But there are some basic things that we know are important long term in life. Like, sleep is super important for children. So much happens in our brains while we're sleeping. Right. So much reprocessing happens in our brains while we're sleeping, and children need a lot of sleep. Yeah. They need more sleep than adults do. Yeah. We need less sleep as we become adults than we did as children. And so it's important to have a good sleep schedule too, because it affects the way we feel, it affects our mood, it affects the way we're able to think and comprehend and process things. And so I think when we start looking at even diagnoses, you know, like ADD, ADHD, a lot of things can be mitigated with a good sleep schedule, a good, you know, making sure we're eating some nutritious foods, along with all the other wonderful things that we enjoy eating too. Right. So just making sure that we're, again, creating some harmony in all the things that we do, or getting outside enough, getting enough activity and all that good stuff. Right. So, yeah. Yeah,
having a sleep routine has been really awesome for us because, you know, with when we had just had Chessa, she slept in our bed. She'd just go to sleep when we go to sleep, and, you know, we'd, you know, sleep in until she got up. Like, she was living the life, honestly, you know. And then when Raylan came along and he's in the bassinet, it was not good. So Wade and her ended up going to her room and sleeping in there while me and Raylan were in our room, because we didn't want to just like be like, all right, you're in your room while we have the new baby, you know what I mean? So we did that for a while.
I think that's fair.
Yeah,
a little transition.
Yeah,
you know.
And then when we finally got Raylan on a routine after 6+ months of him, you know, being crazy, that was amazing. Like, it was like at 6:30 he's going to bed, and then he, you know, wake up 12+ hours later. It was amazing. And so it took a while to get Chess into that routine, but it came to a point where Wade and I were like, okay, we need like alone time. Like, we need our own bed. And so we finally, it's been like 3 weeks now, I think. And she's in her own bed. It does take a little bit. Like, I have to, you know, read her books, say her prayers, like maybe even fall asleep with her in there. And then when I get up, she's like, Mommy, lay down. I'm like, I got to go to the bathroom, you know, I'll be back or something. Like, and the past like 5 days, she finally hasn't woken up in the middle of the night. That was rough. I mean, it was like every 2 hours waking up, Mommy, you know. But anyway, having that sleep, I can tell her having a routine has changed her behavior so much.
It does.
And not falling asleep with the TV, because, you know, if she was sleeping in our bed, we would be, you know, watching a show, or she would watch a Disney movie or something, and I've noticed with her behavior, not falling asleep that way, just falling asleep by herself, you know, has just been amazing with her behavior. Like, it's really been a game changer. But sleep routine, very important, I think. You're getting fussy, you know, I'm like, you're crying? It's because you're tired. Let's go lay down. Like, I like try to talk to her, like, and she's an adult, you know, but it's been a game changer for her behavior.
It is. You know, the televisions are super stimulating.
Yeah.
The light from the television it keeps you awake.
Yeah.
It's hyper arousing.
Yeah.
And so we definitely want to like calm down at night.
Yes.
Like turn the lights down low, make the house a little quieter, get in bed, read books. I love that you have that routine of reading books. I did that with my children too. And that was such a special time and night.
I know.
That we would just be together and everything else in the house was quiet and we just read some books and then say our little prayers and everybody could go to bed and go to sleep. And it was just important. And so it's funny, because I was a single mom for 6 years with 2 children. Oof. I worked 2 jobs and tried to go to school for a little while in the mix of all of that, going to college. And so it was hard. So I had to have a pretty strict routine. So I'm one of those people that was like, okay, 8:00 at night, everyone's in bed, everyone's asleep, because I needed an hour or 2 to myself to be able to read and do the things that I needed to do. Yeah. And so I was pretty scheduled. So I always laugh when people say to me like, well, how can you do this when you're, you know, a single mom? I'm like, that's when I felt like I had to do it the most. Yeah. Like I got up an hour before I got my children up to do my own exercise.
That's awesome.
To do my own scripture reading was really important to me. My spiritual practice was very important to me. So to be with God and have some time in prayer, and then get myself ready, and then wake them up and get them ready, and then have breakfast and then get out the door so I could, you know, get to work and then come home and we had dinner and homework and whatever was going on, depending on the stage of life that everybody was in. And then routines were just important from then on because everybody had such crazy schedules. They started playing sports. They had extracurricular activities after school, and somehow we got a little bit off schedule. But I look back in life and I'm like, okay, the times when we were on a schedule, everyone was at their best. Like we were all functioning better together instead of when things were super chaotic.
Yeah. I feel like I'm getting because Chessa starts school in August, and she's going to go 5 days a week. And I'm so excited because she just always wants to be with kids her age. She's too smart, but she's really, she literally reads books. She can't read yet, but she memorizes what I say on each page and says it out loud. Yeah. So everyone's like, oh, she can really read. I'm like, no, she can't. She memorized it. Yeah. But
Kelsey used to do that.
That is
so funny. Yeah.
So she's going to just love it. But I'm starting to get a little bit of mom guilt and anxiety of her being gone 5 days a week. But I need it because I need to work and I have to do things for me to be able to, and clean the house. I mean, we have so much to do. I feel like I get really overwhelmed and that's what gives me anxiety. So that I start thinking oh my God, I have to clean this, but I need to take care of myself. I need to go work out or I need to edit or and then I'm like, oh my God, well, I just can't do any of it or something. And I freak out. So I need to do what you just said about your routine. Also, having a routine gives me anxiety. What is wrong with me? But
it does a lot of people.
Because I'm scared it's going to make, when you are in a routine and it's like that every day, it makes me feel like it's flying by and they're growing up so fast. And I'm so scared that she's going to have 5 days a week at school and we're going to wake up, I'm going to take her to school and then I'm going to get my work done. Then she comes home and then a few hours later, we're getting ready for bed. It makes me so scared that time is just flying. So I need to get over that because they're growing up. Yeah. This is a part of life.
Yeah. And here's the thing, routines can be, you get to make them whatever you want them to be. Yeah. Right. And so it's all about looking at what's important to you and your family, right? When do I need to get my work done? Yeah. What needs to happen throughout the course of a day? How can I be my best in life for me? Yeah. Because when I'm my best, then I can be my best for me, for everyone else too, right? Yeah. And so I knew what was important to fill my cup. And so I knew what I needed to do so that I could be present for them. But what was really interesting is after work time, because before in the morning time, we're not doing a whole lot of stuff, but if there was some extra time in there, we might read a book before school or something like that. Right. And then after work, there's always something fun planned somewhere in life along the way. What night is going to be kind of a family fun night or what are we going to do on the weekend that's fun? And research shows that it's not about the quantity of time we spend with children, which is also really important when I have parents that are not married and they're co-parenting and their children are splitting time between homes. And so children have more than one home, right? Yeah. Try not to say mom's home and dad's home, but I try to say, because children don't want to feel like nomads, right? They want to know. So both homes are their homes. Both homes are their homes. But it's not, it's the quality of the time that you spend with your children. So what are you doing when you are with them? Right. So we could be with them all day long, but if we're with them all day long and we're anxious because we know we have a job to do, right? Because we work from home so much now. And so we're frustrated because we need to be, like in your case, maybe editing videos or doing a podcast and doing the things that you need to be doing because you are working out of your home. Right. But you're seeing them and saying, oh gosh, they need me too. And I'm feeling really anxious about that. They're feeling all that anxiety and tension, and that's not healthy energy for anyone. Right. But when it's like, hey, this time is blocked for this. And then when I'm done with this is what I'm going to be doing with you guys. And then here's your nap time. And all your nap time, I may clean the house a little bit. Right. So it's just this, you don't have to write it out. It doesn't have to be the same every day. But I always tell people, at least look at your week and say, okay, what's happening for me this week? Yeah. And what do I need to work into this schedule so that life is, an easier place for all of us.
Having a routine, and we finally got this calendar that we put out over here, and Wade and I, it's helped us so much because I have so many things every day, like a photo shoot this day or something. And so like he needs to know. And that has helped, just like having the calendar out, writing that down. But I struggled with severe postpartum anxiety because when I was with the kid, which is all day, but with the kids, I would be thinking about my entire to-do list of what I have to do, stressing out about that. And that's not good. Like I need to spend the time with them and enjoy it with them. And then while I'm editing, I'm like, because I have my little office in our playroom, I'll be like looking at them and I'm like, I should be playing with them. Or like Raylan will like keep bringing books to me, or Chessa will. And I'm like, oh my God. And then I feel guilty for editing. It's just like, no, like you said, I have to set a time for editing and then set a time for like being with them. And I know that is really hard for people who like, maybe can't afford the help, like, a nanny or babysitter or anything, or who don't live where their parents live. So that is hard as well because, our parents, Wade's mom, like she retired, thank goodness, so she'll help. But like they all work. So I just like didn't have any help. And so it was just so stressful. And then, in the meantime, I have my clients like texting me like, hey, where's my video? And I'm someone that like takes that to heart. And then I think about that all day, and then it like ruins my day. I can't just be like, hey, I'm going to have it done in a couple of weeks and then set it aside. I like think about, oh my God, I have to do this right now. You know what I mean? So it's just like so stressful. So like having that set time though, like you said, like that is so important for me, like to be able to do that. It's helped me with my anxiety so much because I'm taking in these moments with them. And then whenever I can get someone to help or they're taking a nap, then I'm like, okay, I can work. And it is hard too, because then you're exhausted, with them, and you're like, well, they're taking a nap. Should I take a nap, or do I need to work? And so I'm like, well, I'll just drink this sweet tea and give me some caffeine and get the work done, Yeah. But being a mom is hard.
Listen, it is. It's like there's so much joy in doing all the things we want to do and try to get done, and being a mom. But then it's hard trying to, like I said, create all the synergy and harmony and all the things that we're trying to do. But there's something about that whole time blocking thing. If you try it, to be able to say, okay, I don't have to feel guilty editing right now because this is the time I blocked out for it. And I know that when this time is over, I'm going to be having some really fun quality time with my children. And this is what we're going to do. And so there's almost like there's this release of tension. Yeah. So because what's coming, it's like, okay. And I know when that client texts me, it's like, hey, yeah, I know. And I'm going to be working on your video tonight tonight. And that you've blocked out some time to work on that video so you can rest and be where you are without feeling so anxious.
That is a really good way to look at it, about balance and harmony, but I have accepted like not every day can be exactly the same. And I think it gives some moms or even dads anxiety about like not being able to get them in bed like right at 6:30. And sometimes it makes you like not be able to enjoy things. So like, I mean, we have, like me raising these two babies has been during a pandemic. So that's, different and hard. But I like missed out on a lot of things because I would be like, no, like he has to go to bed right at 6:30. And I wouldn't like spend extra time with my family or something like that. But now that I've kind of got my anxiety under control, I'm like way more relaxed. Or like my dad and Wade like have gigs together sometimes, and it's kid friendly, so they can go. And I used to not go or like leave really early because I have to, go to bed at this time, or I'm stressed out about getting home and doing all this. But now I'm like, no, relax. Like, they can get off schedule a little bit. They're going to have to learn to do that anyway, when they get older, when they have all kinds of different activities. Not every day is going to be exactly the same. You want them to be able to adjust to something, and I don't know. So I just know that
you've got to have some flexibility in that. I say that all the time, like, because my daughter has these bedtimes for her children, and if I'm watching them or they're going to come spend the night with me, I'm like, we're going to be somewhat on schedule, right? But we might be within 30 minutes. And I say the same thing with co-parenting. Like, people are like, oh, well, my co-parent would let the children stay up all night and watch movies. Like, can you agree on a bedtime? And so bedtime is 8 o'clock. So as long as everybody's in bed by, between 8 and 8:30 or 7:30 and 8, whatever. Like, flexibility is so important. And then there might be a special night where, there's a gig. And so maybe bedtime's at 10 tonight. Yeah. That's not the norm, right? But that's tonight. Or we're at a wedding, right? Yes. We're celebrating. Yeah. So everybody's going to be able. I have this great picture of my youngest when he was 2 years old, and we were at a family wedding, and it's like midnight, and he's asleep on my chest, and we're on the dance floor, and I'm dancing, and
so
that's
fun.
a night in life, you know. And he was exhausted, but he got to bed, and he's fully functioning 21-year-old today. So everything's fine.
He's fine. That's so cute.
So absolutely, you got to create harmony in things. You got to have some realistic, perceptions on where you are in the moment and what's going on. But then as a general rule, you've got these routines and schedules that make sense so that you can be really good at your job and also be, an available parent.
Yeah, more present in the moment. Yeah. Because like you said, quality over quantity. So that's so true.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think what other things were we going to talk about?
Well, a lot of it was like, what do we do with all these children in stage of development? And so, it's interesting. You said Chessa's going to start school this year, which I think is so great. Social development is so important. I'm so glad that she's going to be in school and in person and with other people, because children need that. And especially coming out of this pandemic, I've been so worried, and a lot of little research pieces have come out to say how seeing people in masks all the time is really not a healthy way to develop in life. It, it can create some barriers in feeling emotions. Yeah. Because facial expressions are a way that we display and demonstrate our emotions. And so if children are not exposed to that, then they become emotionless almost and stoic. And so we don't want that.
No,
so we want feelings in our homes. We want our children to be able to be socialized and be around other children and experience all the things in life they're going to experience, but know that they have like this nurturing caregiver they can always come home to and trust. I always say that to parents too, in every stage of development, making sure, I said this earlier, that you're a safe place and you allow your children to feel feelings and understand their needs and their wants. Like, I want those shoes because they look really cool, but maybe we can't get them right now. Also going to be the same thing when they're 15. I want to go to that party and I want to be able to stay out until 1 or 2. Okay, I get that you want to be able to do that, and I'm going to let you go to that party, but you're coming home at 10 or you're coming home at midnight, because that's what we do in this family, and we have reasons for that, and you're going to express those reasons and why they are right, and what you're trying to do and protect them from or whatever. And they're not always going to like it. No. Like, none of these things mean that everybody's going to agree all the time, but they just mean that you're creating some sort of synergy and flow in your home that makes sense, and being someone your children can count on. I always tell my children too, like, I remember especially saying this to, I remember having the conversation with my daughter. I know I had it with everyone that said, look, if there's everything you need to talk about or you want to share with someone in life and it's really important, I'm your person. Your friends do not know how to keep secrets yet. No. So if you don't want anyone else to know and it's something you need to talk about, you need to come and talk to me. I might not want to hear it, but I'm your safe place because no one loves you like I do. And no one is going to... and by the way, your friends don't have any more experience than you do. Right. So if you're asking them for advice on anything going on in life, just remember they're the same age as you. Yeah. Like, I've been where you are. I've had some experience in that. Yeah. Whatever is happening in life is not that much different from what I had in life. What's different is the technology. Yeah. I mean, you've got way more to worry about than I did, right? Like the social media and all of that. So But they're just having some awareness around that, but always making space for your children to be able to develop with you, like right there as their guide and someone they can count on.
Right. That was huge for me growing up. I mean, I've always said my mom is my best friend. And of course we like not anymore, but when I was in high school, like we butt heads bad, and maybe even college a little bit, but you know, all those hormones. But I mean, literally my whole life, I told her everything, like even stuff that I knew she wouldn't want to hear. Like she knew everything, even TMI stuff that she'd be like, ugh. But like she wanted to be, you know, that safe place for me. And she was all the time. And, you know, sometimes it'd be things where, you know, she didn't need to share with my dad or something. And that's something that she wasn't hiding from him. She was probably protecting him from, you know, girl stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I do have a question. So when parents were brought up completely differently from each other, like, you know, their childhoods were completely different, like, you know, mine and my husband's childhood, if it was different, and we don't agree on like a certain parenting style or discipline or anything like that, like how do you talk that out with each other? And like, I mean, do you just find the balance like with each other, or like compromise? Like, what do you do? Like,
yeah, there are some situations where negotiation skills come into play, right? And one of the examples that I would use is like, let's say that Raylan wants to get a skateboard, and he's, you know, 6 or 7 years old, and you're like, no, he's too little for a skateboard. He's going to get hurt. And of course, Wade maybe be like, oh no, he's, you know, he's fine, tough, and he's fine, and we're going to get a skateboard. And so it could be this big point of contention, right? And I'm using something simple, but there can be lots of bigger things, like curfews can be a big deal. Like there are lots of things that can come along in life that can be very different from, because you have a different perspective and a different frame of mind on things. But so let's say with the skateboard, you know, you have all these valid concerns. And so first I would say, listen to each other. Like, what are your concerns? Why do you feel like we need to do this way? What are you afraid will happen if we don't do it your way, or if we do something differently? And almost like a whiteboard session, like, you know, like where you get that the white dry erase board out and you start writing things on it. And then you listen to each other, and then maybe you come up with a compromise. Well, hey, maybe I'll let him get the skateboard as long as he wears a helmet. Yeah. And he has elbow pads and knee pads on, and he only rides on flat surfaces until he learns how to really ride this well. Right. And then you see how things go, and we revisit this in a few weeks and see how this method is going for us. Right. And we reevaluate and reassess and make changes if we need to, or stay the course. And so that's going to be true with a lot of different things. I think when it comes to discipline, I think that there has to be some sort of understanding of what discipline means and what punishment means and what the difference in the two are. And so I think that's where we miss the boat a lot. I see that a lot in parents. Like we've thought that what we were doing was actually discipline, and it wasn't. It was actually punishment. And where was our frame of mind and when we were executing it? Like, were we mad? Were we angry? Because that's punishment. And so I think being able to, that's why I always start parenting classes with like, let's look at your story of origin. Let's look at how you were raised, what worked for you and what didn't work for you. How'd that spanking work out for you? What did it actually teach you? What it taught me is, if I'm going to do certain things, I need to make sure I don't get caught. Right. We learned how to navigate our parents based on the way they treat us. Right. Oh, yeah. And so we learned how to play parents against each other, right? Or which parent to go to for what things. I laugh because I know exactly what our children are with when they're asking me for something or wanting to do something, because they know my personality and what I will, you know, say yes to. And they know what they go to their dad for. And we laugh about it. And so then we have to kind of be able to talk about like knowing those differences and being able to say, okay, I value my husband's thoughts on this and I need to respect his thoughts on this, which I didn't always do well, by the way. Sometimes I had to like go back and go, gosh, I didn't do that so well. So sorry about that. And like, let's talk through that. And to say to my children, like, no, we can't do that, because like I might be okay with that. And clearly, you know that I might be okay with that, but you know, your dad's not okay with that. Right. And so we need to ask him and get his thoughts on this. Right. Exactly. Right. There's just this way of being and creating some synergy within our families so that there is a culture of civility and respect. Yeah. I remember if I knew my mom would say no to something, or my dad would, I would totally go ask the other one like first. Yeah. And then if they're like, no, but well, dad said I could, I totally remember doing that. So
me and Wade will have to talk about that, because whenever that does happen, we need to be like, well, let me talk to your mom or something like that. Yeah. Because I want us to always be on the same team, so that they know, or they can like remember that. And then when they're married one day, they know to do that, you know. Oh, parenting is hard. Co-parenting is hard too.
All of it, yeah. It's just hard. You listen, we're all different people. We have our own unique needs, our own way of wanting to be in the world. When I married my husband and I are very different too. And so we brought very different family of origins into this marriage together. And probably and definitely never talked about it. We weren't even aware of it, and how that shaped even how we interacted with one another until much later in life. Yeah. And then starting to have those conversations, though, what a game changer it has been for our marriage. Yeah. And here's the really cool thing about marriage, an important thing to know about marriage, is children grow up and they get their own life with their own family. And the person you're left with is the person that you're married to. And so my husband and I are empty nesters now. And every night it's me and him, you know, and what are we doing? And like last night was movie night with me and him, you know, and what are we watching? And we're really enjoying the space that we're in, but it has come from us doing a lot of our own work, like going in and looking at like, golly, you know, if I could be the woman I am in my 50s and my 20s, it would have been a whole different ballgame. Yeah. But I love that I get to be in this space now, and I get to share the things that I have learned, and both that are supported by research and then our personal experiences, and be able to say that there's a lot of truth to this, and there's validity to this. And you know, you're in charge. You can listen to what I have just to share and take something from it, take what makes sense and apply it to your own life, or apply none of it to your life. Like, it's all your choice. And that's the beauty of teaching and sharing and being in the space that we're in. But I know that a lot of it works. And I know that there's a lot of truth to it. Yeah. So always making yourself a safe place for your children, right? Like, be the person they can count on. You're always modeling for them and teaching them who you are. They are going to be adults in your life with you a lot longer than they are children in your life. Right. That's crazy. Right. Isn't that crazy to think about, that you will spend 18 years raising your children, developing them, helping them develop as humans, helping them develop into the human they're going to be, the adult they're going to be, and then they're adults. Yeah. And you could spend the next 40 to 60 years as an adult with your child. And so what you're doing with your child today sets up the kind of relationship you'll have with them later. And that shows up in so many different ways in our lives with our children. So, I mean, I love being an adult with my children. I know. So much fun. Cool. Yeah. I know my parents, you know, because they are too, because their youngest is 21, like you. And I'm about to be 30 this year, which is crazy. I feel Kelsey's age. Yeah, they feel like they're like, this is weird. Like, our daughter's 30, you know. But and my brother is 25, and he's about to be a dad. But anyway, so they're now watching us, you know, grow up and do exactly what they did. So they like talk about that all the time. They're like, this is crazy, and like we can like go out and like get drinks together, like all of us, not because my sister's 21, but it's just crazy. So I'm so thankful for, you know, the parents that I had, and, you know, I think that they did a great job with all three of us. Awesome. And like, we're all three so open to learning and advice and like, you know, counseling and just stuff like that. And I'm just so thankful to them. So thanks, Mom, Dad. I hear you say that a lot. It sounds like you're very nurturing parents. I really do. Still do. Awesome. Like, they're still there, still have your back. I love that.
Absolutely. They will always have our backs and support us through anything. And one thing I love is, you know, they will, like you said, with what you do with your kids, you know, they'll give us the advice, but if we don't follow it, then they're not like, what, you don't do this, you know, they're just like, okay, well, that's your decision, you know. Yeah. Because anything with parenting, I'm always like, Mom, what do I do? I'm asking her everything, because she was, you know, the best mom, or is the best mom. And I like, you know, I have younger siblings. So when they were born, like, I obviously was like their little second mom, you know, and it made me want to be a mom the second they were born practically. So I noticed that I do everything she does or did. So it's so funny. Like, you know, you grow up and you'll notice you do things like your parent, like, oh, I'm doing that, like what my mom did. But now I'm like, well, Oh, well.
Even the things you might have said, I'm never going to do that.
Yes.
It's like, oh, sometimes I'll see that in my daughter. I'll be like, oh, you just had a Michelle moment. And that was not a good one, actually. I'm going to tell you that's something I would have done differently. So, like, let's talk about that.
That's so funny. Yeah. Yeah. Wade will look at me and he'll be like, oh my gosh, you're Pamela right now, which is my mom. And I'm like, I know. And I look at my mom and she does what her mom does. It's just, that's what happens. So our children are sponges and we are the role models. And I also think the way you treat other people and talk about other people, especially your spouse, is huge too, because you're setting the example for a partner that they choose one day. And that's a big thing for me because, I've always, wanted to marry someone like, exactly like my dad, because he's just the best dad and just so funny and outgoing. And like the way my parents treat each other, like, I've seen them bicker before, but then I see them make up or,
Yeah, that's important.
Yes, and say sorry.
That like life is not perfect, but then how do they work through their struggles? Like, that's real world.
Yeah.
Right? Children need to know that and they need to be able to take from that.
Exactly. And I've seen them both say sorry. My dad probably more. But, happy wife, happy life.
Yeah.
My husband needs to learn that. But anyway, it's just, that's so important. So I really want Wade, like I pray every night that Wade and I are the best parents that we can be and the best partners we can be for them. Like, I think about them way more than myself, but I'm like, because I want them to choose the right partner and one that, is going to always be there for them. And then the partner that's going to be the best parent with them, So I think that's so important. But thank you for doing this with me.
We could talk
for a long time. You have to come back and do this with me.
I would love to. Yeah, sometime.
I know. Sure. I think I should maybe one day post something and see if anybody has any questions to ask you.
Yeah, please.
Because I know people definitely will.
I'll have some parenting classes coming up, and they'll be on Tuesday and Thursday mornings.
Okay.
This fall.
Okay.
So I'm really excited about that.
Well, I'll be signing up for that too.
Yeah. I'll have the 0 to 5 and then 5 to 12 age group.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I think there'll be a lot of fun too for moms just to, and moms and dads, parents. Okay. It's for parents, but I mean, I imagine a lot of moms will come too.
Yeah.
For people to come together and be able to share space and just process and talk to each other. And get ideas and information from each other. So
because
I'll definitely share with you when I'm adding stuff.
Please. Yeah. Parents need to stick together and know that we're not alone in this chaos, this chaotic life. But thank you so much for doing this. This has been so helpful. Oh my gosh, I've learned a lot. I feel a lot more secure in my parenting skills.
Good.
But wish me luck.
Oh, for sure. You're going to listen. We were just talking about this before we got on here, right? Like, it's not even just about just the way kids play. Like, my grandsons the other day were playing golf and they had the real golf clubs out, and I was like, someone's going to knock someone over the head.
Real clubs?
Yeah, they had real golf clubs. They weren't playing with little kitty plastic clubs. They were playing with their dad's golf clubs, and I was like, someone's going to get really hurt here. Ooh. And I thought to myself, I don't know how children make it to adulthood. Just living life outside of just being fun. So yeah, absolutely. But they're resilient and they make it through, and so we did.
It's crazy. Yeah, we're here. We are. I don't know how we made it, but we're here. Yeah, and we're doing the best we can.
And you are. That's exactly right.
Yes, so. And it's okay to make mistakes. Just because I will dwell on the mistakes that I make as a parent or anything, and I'll dwell on it. But I'm like, okay, I have to forgive myself and just learn from it, and then move on. Because I'll freak out about it.
Yeah, your children need you to do that.
I feel guilty.
By the way. They need you to move on too, because they're on to the next thing already.
Exactly.
As it is. So you've got to be able to move through all those things with them. But yeah, I think the most important thing you do as a parent is to get to know your child, make space for your child to be who they are trying to be, help them develop into the human that they're coming into being, and have, you have a code of ethics in your own family, morals and values and beliefs that you're instilling in them, and that they understand. And that they adopt.
Right.
Well, at least for sure while they're living in your home, right? Yeah. That you all can create. And when there's something they don't agree with, ask them, let them express and get to know their thoughts and feelings on things, and make room to be flexible and make changes where it's necessary, because everybody's different. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
This is awesome. I can't wait to get this out. I will put all your info for all the classes on here. You still have Instagram, right?
I do.
Okay, we'll put your Instagram on there. You're the best.
Okay,
you
have
the best. You're gonna need to do your own podcast one day, because you have the best voice. Oh my gosh, I feel like right now I sound like a man.
No, you don't. No, you don't at all. You have a wonderful voice, and this has been a pleasure. So thanks for having me.
Of course.
All right.
Bye.
this one's for the mothers. You gotta love the mothers. And you gotta hug the ones who bring us joy and love. It's the middle with the moms and it's your day. I said now this one's for the mothers. You gotta love the mothers. And you gotta hug the ones who bring us joy and love. It's the middle with the moms and it's your day.